Robson and Safechuck stated that leaving Neverland is not about money. Yet they failed to mention the multi-million-dollar civil suit both have been pursuing for years against Jackson's companies, the failed legal actions against the Michael Jackson estate, and the 4 different lawsuits that were dismissed with prejudice. They failed to mention that Robson owes the estate almost $70,000 in court costs, and Safechuck owes the estate several $1,000s as well. Robson and Safechuck failed to mention that their appeal against the dismissal of their multi-million-dollar lawsuits is likely to be heard later this year. Robson failed to mention that his film production company opened in 2014, in the middle of his lawsuit, while he stated that he would never be able to work in the entertainment industry again because of the alleged abuse. Yet Robson failed to mention that he tried to shop a book deal about his allegations in the year prior filing his lawsuit, and then tried to hide said book from the estate. Wade Robson started promoting his own fund right before the movie was premiered at Sundance Festival. Robson has parked his 501c3 very cleverly under something called the Hawaii Community Foundation. That way, he doesn't have to file a Form 990. We'll never know if the makers of Leaving Neverland have donated money to it. Everyone failed to mention that the distribution of the movie will generate business and money for all parties. Leaving Neverland shows no substantial evidence of any abuse. As a matter of fact, it is entirely built on 2 people's narrative and no independent voice is allowed. Yet Robson and Safechuck failed to mention the several different versions of events they have been giving while trying to obtain monetary compensation for the alleged abuse, and the new narrative they went along with in the movie. They showed flimsy proof of the alleged abuse in the form of some generic jewelry that Jackson, a notoriously generous man with everyone, purportedly bought for Safechuck, then a child, and never seen with said jewelry in any pictures of that time, and love faxes that Jackson would send to Robson as part of his supposed grooming process. Let's take a look at these faxes and how the narrative of the movie tried to make something sinister out of them. Be the Best has been turned from something motivational and inspiring to some bizarre form of grooming. Chantal is Wade's sister. Why would Jackson groom someone by sending very traceable faxes, written in his own handwriting and directed to the whole family is beyond any comprehension. Joey was Jackson's nickname for Wade's mother, Joy Robson. It's hard to comprehend how a fax clearly sent in response to what looks like a request of support by the woman is supposed to be grooming. The same thing could be said for the very generic "I love you all." Michael Jackson had the habit of writing affectionate messages to everyone that was important for him. It was one of the constants of his life. Is this supposed to be grooming too? The faxes sent to the Robsons, turned into something creepy and sinister in the movie, were described in court by Joy Robson, Wade's mother, this way.
Initially, they came through Norma, because Michael didn't know how to use the fax machine. So he would, and he was funny. He would. He had a fax machine in his bedroom, and then I remember him having a conversation with me saying that he didn't know how to use it.
Other than this, the entire movie is based exclusively on the words of the accusers, with no evidence in support of their narrative. Leaving Neverland seems to rely on the emotional manipulation of the spectator and the shock value guaranteed by extremely graphic details, no matter how uncorroborated the events are, when compared to actual evidence. Dan Reed did not reach out to any independent party or individuals that would have spoiled the clear narrative set for his movie. The Jackson family, the people who worked with MJ during the relevant time period, other young men and women who spent time with Jackson as children, included those explicitly referenced by name in the movie and who state that MJ never did anything improper at all, friends of Jackson who knew him for his whole life, anybody from Jackson's defense team, or the Michael Jackson estate. None of these individuals or entities was ever contacted during the making of the movie. Both James Safechuck and Wade Robson are self-admitted perjurers, and the entire movie is solely based on their common narrative. It is not surprising that Leaving Neverland was a last-minute inclusion at Sundance Festival, is being showed to a selected audience of media personalities, but not the Jacksons, who are directly or indirectly targeted in the movie. Whoever is deeply knowledgeable about the case would have discredited Robson and Safechuck even before filming began. According to Dan Reed, one of the most interesting milestones of the movie is the fact that the two accusers' stories align. Yet he failed to mention that Robson and Safechuck not only have been sharing the same lawyers for years, but also that Safechuck associated himself with Robson after Robson went public with his allegations. It would be indeed very strange if their stories did not align. Reed has also made blatantly false statements about Robson and Safechuck during the promotion of the movie, in an effort to bolster its credibility. He stated that Sundance was the first time that Safechuck and Robson met as adults. In his 2016 deposition, Robson testified that he had spoken to Safechuck in 2014, the year Safechuck filed his lawsuit against the estate. When asked what the two men had spoken about, Robson refused to answer the question. His attorney instructed him to remain silent because their common law firm was involved in the conversations between the two men in 2014. Robson and Safechuck were also repeatedly caught lying during their failed lawsuits against the Jackson estate. For example, in order to try to get around the statute of limitations for his monetary claims against the estate, Robson testified under oath that prior to March 4, 2013, he did not understand or was even aware that an estate had been opened to administer Michael Jackson's brand. Robson had personally met with John Branca, one of the estate's executors, at Mr. Branca's office in 2011 in a failed effort to solicit work with the estate on a Michael Jackson-themed Cirque du Soleil show. Only after having been turned down for the Cirque show, Robson realized he had been allegedly abused by Jackson. During the litigation with Jackson's companies, Robson was also caught trying to hide evidence before his cases were dismissed. For example, Robson lied under oath and stated that, other than one brief email in late 2012, he had had no written communications with anyone but his lawyers about the alleged abuse. Not only Robson tried to shop for a book about his allegations in the year prior filing his lawsuit against the Michael Jackson estate, but was also eventually ordered by the court to provide all the written communications he had had with anyone about his supposed abuse. Robson produced hundreds, if not thousands, of written communications with his family and friends about his allegations. He never explained why he lied, and said he had no such communications. Most notably, many of these communications were with his mother, where he admittedly was trying to reconstruct his own memories of the time period when he was supposedly molested. James Safechuck failed to mention how, after seeing Robson on the Today Show in May 2013, he contacted Robson's lawyers and filed copycat lawsuits against the estate for millions of dollars. Just like Robson, even Safechuck had testified under oath that Jackson never did anything inappropriate to him. When MJ was still alive, of course. Safechuck's two cases against the Michael Jackson estate were also dismissed. These are only a few of the countless provably false affirmations and omissions that Robson and Safechuck have been engaged on in the past 6 years. More of them will be explored in further videos on this channel and other informative channels opting for the truth, instead of the smear campaign against a black man who was investigated, trialed, acquitted, cleared, vindicated, and can no longer defend himself against greed.